when you understand all the data layers and what you're trying to do, now you're able to like get it, collect it, review it with your team. And now you're like, hey, let's try this. Let's test this. And really that's what business is all about. It's always testing.
Welcome to the High Voltage Business Builders, a show where we interview entrepreneurs growing and scaling their income through e-commerce and showing you the path to make your first or next million. Tell me more about this. So we're going to get started. Alex, welcome to the show. Because I figured we didn't hit record, so let's hit record and get going and get jamming on this. So you were just telling me about something in the e-commerce world you're working on. Let's break it down a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm running ads for a gambling sports app right now. So you could,
sports app. Okay.
Yeah. So you like, if you want to bet on a player during basketball season, baseball season, golf, all of that, you could actually upload money to this app and then bet, whether they perform well or whether they don't perform well against their competitors. It's pretty interesting. The owners.
That sounds dangerous.
Yeah. So, there's quite a few apps. It's kind of like fantasy football. It's like that.
Okay. Yeah.
And so the owner is like, hey, I want to spend like 100K on Facebook and TikTok and all these channels. And I was like, well, let's kind of discover how we're going to get people to download the app. Do we got to educate people?
Yeah.
The people who haven't spent credits on your app, how do we get them to spend credits on the app if they haven't? So there's a lot of things that were, like even for me, it's brand new, but it's pretty cool to see the process. And so when it comes to e-com, Facebook advertising, direct to, traffic to webinar, all that, it's just understanding the process. And that's what I told him, I was like, well, let's understand the process first. Because if we don't have certain elements in place, it's going to be hard to predict the kind of numbers we're trying to shoot for,
So is this an app that you guys developed? Is this an internal thing, or are you running this as a client or an agency kind of thing?
Yeah. This is another client. Okay. It's his own business. He's been having it for about, I think, 3 years. And so, just help running the ads for him. And we're kind of collaborating with another agency when it comes to the creative side. And so, it's just for me. I've been running ads since 2016, but really neck deep into e-commerce since 2017. And so I learned a lot about the business. And so it's not just, I hope I run ads and then I get leads or I get these sales or I get, people to come into my funnel or get people to come to my list. There's a lot to the business side of it. Because if the business side doesn't make sense, then it's going to be hard to predict how the ads are going to perform. And so I coined this term with Jim Moore, and I'm working with him too, is you have to have an ecosystem. Because if you don't have an ecosystem and even understand how your business operates, it's going to be hard for anybody to come in and just run ads. And we're going to hope that we're going to
get let's dig on that just a little bit. When you say ecosystem, what do you mean? So people who are listening, like ecosystem, what does that mean? Like in terms of what you're doing?
Ecosystem is, well, number one, you understand how your business operates. You understand, the total expenses that it takes to operate as the business as a whole. You understand your market. You understand that you have to use multi-channel. And sometimes it's not just social media. It's radio, it's TV, right? It's newspaper ads. It's thinking about, hey, how can I get my message out to different channels so that as I get traffic to come to my site, now I can know that it's not just Facebook. It's not just Google. It's not just YouTube. Because too many e-commerce business owners just depend on one channel when they got to think of multi-channel, right? Now you have people coming into your funnel, right, through different channels. Now it's, okay, when they get to the site, how is that performing? How are we going to improve the load speed of our website? Is our website or landing page, is it designed to convert? Now I got people adding to cart or they're about to initiate a checkout. Now it's, how do we follow up with those people? Right? Well, so some people just depend on SMS and email, right? I'm a big believer in enhancing customer experience because that's what it's all about. If you go back to the fundamentals of business, it's all about how you interact with people, right? Now you're interacting with them. How do you treat them? How do you solve their objections once they think it's too much or shipping is too much or, oh, I'm not sure, So it's like, enhancing customer experience is a big part of why Celtic Knot is doing so well.
The customer success journey, basically, in terms of their experience with your brand and how they feel about every part of it.
Man, it's so huge. I was at a Powerhouse event in Miami, and even Josh Snow said a few things that just blew my mind. And obviously, I think this, I know this, is he said, when you get into business, you have to be okay with losing money. That's what he said. That was like the first sentence he said, because everybody thinks I'm going to go into business and all of a sudden I'm going to make money when you haven't tested enough. You haven't discovered what will make your market say yes and maybe to your product, right? Because it takes time to figure that out. And then you're always tweaking, you're always testing how you can make it better. And you're going to lose money, right? But it's in those discoveries that you're going to say, yes, now I figured it out. It took me $50K to figure this out. But now I'm making 3 to 4x return because it took a while for me to figure that out, And so enhancing that and learning from your experiences and mistakes. And now we have that call center. We have people following up with email, SMS, retargeting ads on multi-channels, just showing different angles. And now you take all of that data, all that of what you learned, and you loop it right back into that ecosystem. So now it's a never ending cycle that never ends. And you're always finding out what will make your audience tick, what will get them emotionally to pull the trigger. And so, you're always playing with it. And so that's the e-com ecosystem. It's really just a business ecosystem. But when you understand all the data layers and what you're trying to do, now you're able to get it, collect it, review it with your team, review it with your creative team, with your email team, whatever it is. And now you're like, hey, let's try this. Let's test this. And you're always testing. And really, that's what business is all about. It's always testing. It's never ending.
It's the idea that you don't have to start with any money, which is really kind of an internet legend lie narrative, in my opinion. And you're kind of reinforcing this too, that, it takes money to make money, if I'm not mistaken in what you're saying, right? And that's what Josh was kind of alluding to. You're going to lose money at the beginning, whether you choose the wrong product or the product doesn't sell as well as you think, or you've got technical issues, or you're trying to work through optimization issues, or you're just trying to master some traffic sources, whatever it is, right? You're going to have to spend some time and money to do that. If you're going to go out on your own, it's going to cost you more and take a lot longer, no doubt. So, Alex, what got you involved in 2016 what changed? What changed in your life or business that got you involved in media buying?
So I was, like everybody else growing up, we're all told to go to college, and find a career and all that, And so growing up, I was a big musician. I wanted to be in a rock band. I wanted to tour and all that good stuff, but it didn't turn out, that way. And
what was your name? What was your stage name?
Oh man. So I didn't have a stage name, but we had a band.
Okay.
Called United We Stand. And that was from a punk song, because I was into punk rock music and heavy metal. And then we had a band called Caffeine, and it was fun. We played a bunch of Metallica covers and Pantera covers, So
dude, that's cool. I never knew that. That's awesome.
So yeah, I grew up in the 90s, so I was a big metalhead. But no one ever, my mom and my dad never knew options of how to really succeed other than hard labor, construction, or being a mechanic. No one ever said start a business. No one said learn sales. No one said, any of that. Real estate investing. We grew up with almost a poverty mindset. We were never poor, but we always had the mentality of poor. And I never knew what was possible. Yeah. So when I was 20, I decided to join the Navy. I was always a go-getter, but I just didn't know what to do. I was never scared to try anything new. So I went to the Navy, a recruiter, and I said, I want to get on that picture. And that picture was an aircraft carrier. And so I ended up becoming a plank owner on the USS Ronald Reagan. So I was on the Reagan from 02 to 06. And there was 2 guys, check it out. There was 2 guys on my ship that were reading 2 books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Think and Grow Rich. Well, I was maybe 21, 22. And I talked to one of them and I said, so why are you reading that book? And I think it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And one of them said, I want to learn about money. And I said, why? So I was just naive. I just didn't know. I was always taught just get a job, and that's it. Job. That's it.
Right.
That's all I was told. Just over broke, right? That's what it means. So now that I have a family, this is 2009. I get a good paying job. I'm actually a video editor. So I went to school for recording arts. And then I get back to San Antonio and I'm a video editor. I'm a producer. I'm working in an edit bay. And that's where I started my marketing journey. So at that point, I started learning how to edit stories for Christian television. So I work for a giant Christian business, at church, and we were broadcasting on TBN, Daystar, on local stations everywhere. And I was the one in charge of editing all the broadcasts and coming up with small little 30 to 45-second snippets for YouTube. But as time passed, now I have 2 kids, and this is 2014. And I was like, I have to do something. I have to learn, how do you live life on your own terms? And so my brother James sent me a video clip of Grant Cardone. This is 2014. So he's really starting to kind of come up in that time. And I was also listening to Dave Ramsey. So there's like 2 conflicting voices. And I got
totally conflicting.
Yeah, totally conflicting. So one is on the big business side. The other's like, really slow, save and get rich and all that. Grant's like, get real estate, go get a sales job, all of that. So I was conflicted. I didn't know, but I kept listening to different types of podcasts. I was, at that time I was watching Shark Tank like everybody. So I was listening to interviews with Mark Cuban and Kevin O'Leary and, Damon John, all these people. And then one day I was going to go on a cruise to work. I was going on a ministry cruise, and I bought Think and Grow Rich. I was like, hey, I remember this guy was reading Think and Grow Rich back in 2003, 2004. And when I read that book, it just unlocked a storehouse of ideas. And I thought, man, this is possible. We live in America.
Yeah, dude.
I could do this. So I started asking myself, what am I good at? What am I great at? What could I do to serve other people, etc.? And so in 2016, I bought courses on Facebook ads, and I just started to apply them to my own things, my own ideas. And I started seeing results. I started to read books on copy. I started to buy books on marketing and psychology and all that. And so in 2017, I just jumped from the 8-to-5 world straight to being a business owner. I already had my LLC for Texas. So I was like, you know what? What's holding me back? And so I did what Napoleon Hill talks about. I burned the ships. The ships. I saw a course on Facebook ads by a guy named Jason Hornug. He was my first, kind of mentor in the space. And I got his boot camp, and I just started diving in. And then I started getting into the groups, and I started to kind of see all these numbers. And I was like, man, is this real? Are people making this kind of money from Facebook? And sure enough, I started to make relationships and get opportunities to run ads for people. And I hit those rocks, though. I got bloody. I got hurt. I made some big mistakes. But without those mistakes, I wouldn't know what to do for the next round of people I was able to help. And long story short,
well, Jason as a mentor is a great choice, dude.
Yeah,
you chose very well with Jason as a mentor. For those who maybe don't know. In
2017, there was a guy in his group. He put, "I'm looking for a shark who wants to learn the art of media buying." So, man, it was like blood in the wall. I was a shark, and I saw it. I was messaging him like crazy, and he interviewed me. He goes, "Why should I, bring you on to my agency?" And I said, "Because I'm reliable, dependable, and I'm on time." And he goes, "You're hired." And I was only working for like $500 a month, and I didn't really care. I didn't care. All I was focusing on was getting the knowledge. And after that, I started to see really good success. I was getting mentored by some really great people. And, after that, I joined another coaching program to get clients. And then that's how I met all these great people that I work with now. And then now I'm partnered with OptimizeX. working with another company called Line Out Media, which there's hardly anybody that know about them, but they handle monster accounts. And so I'm running ads for them. I'm teamed up with this great software that's coming up that should be launched soon. And it's been a hell of a ride. But man, the last 6 years, I've had my scares. I thought, man, fuck this. I don't want to sound bad, but I was like, I want to just quit. I'm just gonna get a job. But I just kept pushing through, man. I just kept pushing through. And some people that I used to work with would see me and they would say, I can't believe you're still doing it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm still doing it, and I'm free. I'm not rushing 9 to 5. I get to wake up, read some books, and I'll get on the computer by, 9:45, 10 and look at my accounts, make a few changes, walk away, and it's good, So that's how I got into, e-com and Facebook ads.
Dude, that is a fantastic story. I love your just over broke. I mean, because, at the point in which you were having trouble, you were on your own, at least giving your dream a shot, giving yourself a chance to get out there and do it, connecting with the right people. And you may have been just over broke in the process of doing that, but at least you were free from the other obligations that would have held you back from a traditional job. So kudos for you. Your story is amazing because it's not one that just says, hey, I got into Facebook ads and all of a sudden my life changed in overnight and I was making all this money and life was really good. Tell us about some of those rocks you ran into. Let's get in that a little. Tell me some of the things you mentioned that got you bloodied up and you hit the rocks as you were going along.
When it comes to business, I would say one of the key skills you must have or you must invest in is learning how to communicate, learning how to be an influence when you talk with somebody. If you're going to run ads for them or really anything in business, because you don't know if you can help them, right? In the beginning, I was desperate. I was desperate to work for anybody for $1,000 a month or so at that point, I didn't really know my worth. I didn't know my value, and so even though I was bringing in sometimes over, 50,000 in new revenue or 100,000 revenue, I was only getting paid like $1,000. And I was like, man, this is not right. So I didn't know how to communicate that. I've had clients do chargebacks on me after making them a 5x return on their investment. And you got to battle that. And then you end up losing regardless, even if you have a contract. I mean, I fought Stripe and I told American Express, all of that. And it was just, it's part of the game. People come, they stay for a while, then they go. And it's hard. Some of the things about entrepreneurship people don't know about is, and I've heard Ed Milet talk about this, I've heard Tony Robbins talk about this, is getting those disconnect notices. You're freaking out because you're trying to find a way to buy Pampers for your newborn. You got them. Now you got a client, yes. And all of a sudden, like within 2 weeks, they ghost you and they kick you out of their account and then they never pay the invoice. So I've been through all of that, and it's part of the life of being an entrepreneur. It's just part of the it's part of the beginning.
It is part of the gig. Yeah. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you understand how to persevere, build tenacity, and connect with the right people to help you get through it, because everybody faces it at all levels.
Oh man. And you hardly hear anybody talk about that. Yeah. For me, whenever I see these entrepreneurs on Facebook or TikTok or Twitter or whatever, and they share these success stories, but they're not really sharing the reality of it, because everybody gets excited, all the hype, but they're not prepared when they hit those rocks. And there's a friend of mine, he just became a business owner and he was excited. He's all like, I'm free. And I'm like, yeah, it's awesome. And then he saw all the resources I had and he asked me, hey, can I have that? And I said, no, because I paid with heartache, because I told him, you have to get used to using money that you don't have. I paid for the coaching courses.
It is a strange thing, because at this point, if you're buying on media ads and you're using a credit card, you really are using someone else's money to spend in this environment, right? And in some capacities, buying physical product and inventory, even if we put 30% down, we still got to come up with that 70% on that 40-foot container to let that product roll. Like, you still have to deal with these components of business. It doesn't go away. Like if people seem to think that once you get moving, that you're all cash and no other things are considered in this business, from credit to terms, manufacturing, buying ads through Facebook accounts, whatever. Nobody ever really considers that. And I think what happens is when they do, they run into problems like you, wanting to pay the bills and suddenly realizing, well, you may have got them a 5X, but they just spent 8X on that Lambo, and all of a sudden they can't pay for it, right?
Yeah. I think there was a couple of years ago, I paid for some business coaching because I was new to business. I wanted some mentorship, and I gained a lot from that, from that mentorship. I gained a lot. My relationships grew. I grew more confident than knowing, how to connect with people. And so I definitely got a 10X out of that investment. But again, I used a credit card to get into that program. I put, hey, I only got this $3,000. Okay, cool. I swiped it. I immediately got into all the resources they had, and I started landing clients. I started landing opportunities to talk with people. But again, I didn't have it. So I just pulled out a credit card and I said, here we go. Let's go. So I wasn't scared to use it. In fact, like the way my mind's built is probably like yours. It's a different switch than the average person, because the way I look at college too. And again, I had the GI Bill when I went to Full Sail, because I went to Full Sail for recording arts. I still believe that spending the $40,000 to go there was the way to go. I mean, I think every average Americans think that way. Hey, I'm going to spend $50K to go to this college because that's the way to go. So I'm going to take out loans, right? So I didn't have grants. I didn't have any of that. I just took out, what I could to get through. And so that's the way I thought. Hey, the program's $10K. Let's go. Let's do it. I'm not going to bitch and complain about it. Let's go. Boom. But for some people who are just getting into this game, e-com or business for the first time, it's like they're basically pushing pennies and they're scared. It's like, dude, you can make money again. Just spend the money. It's going to come back. But you just got to just drive forward and just push it through.
You got to have a little tenacity. Yeah. And a little, a little less risk adverse. Like I think one of the differences that between us and I know between others is a little less risk aversion. Like we've had troubles in the past. We've risked to certain points and we see where that failure is. And maybe we risked a little too far, but now we're willing to risk up to here because we know where that boundary is. But for others, up to here still feels like way off on a ledge. And so they're like, whoa, are you're way too far out there. It's like, no, I'm not too far out there. But you said something a minute ago that I think I want to draw back out here. It's very important. And it's a phrase that I use. And I think as you described, you were getting in with Jason and finding this gentleman and then being, I'm going to show up on time. I'm going to do the work. I'm here and I'm present. It's who that gets you there. And it's what that keeps you there. And I think people misunderstand the power in knowing people who you are getting involved in the area specifically that you want to become an expert in, or that you want to be successful in, or you want to get in business in. And it's a powerful life testimony you're saying today, because you're somebody I know who's exemplified that. And that's why I wanted to get you on here to talk about this, because you're just getting started. 2017 and e-com is just brand new. I mean, it's time for you guys to start cranking up.
What's cool about this space is once you make a really good connection, and that person sees the value you bring and you're helping them, once they put your name out there, you're going to get a plethora of messages, Messenger or people hitting you up on Twitter or TikTok. And it's awesome. But what I've learned about being in business is just being genuine. You got to be genuine. You got to be authentic and be real. Don't play, the whole nice game. Like I'm going to just be nice. I'm not going to tell you the truth about how this works. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be authentic. I will be nice, but I'm going to tell you this is not going to work because of X, Y, and Z. And I've had many of those conversations, and some of the business owners are just like thankful that I was honest. And sometimes they're like, hey, we just can't do this anymore because of what you said. And I said that, that's okay. But just understand though, before you move on, other agencies that you're going to work with or media buyers or whoever you're going to work with, the good ones are always going to ask you the really good questions. And if you don't know the answer to those, then they're not going to say yes because you don't have your numbers aligned. If you think about, if you watch The Profit with Marcus Lemonis and Shark Tank or any really good investor, they want to know your numbers. And if you don't know your numbers,
They want to know the numbers.
man, it's going to be tough. And so in the beginning, sometimes I took accounts that didn't know the numbers. I was like, so what are the KPIs? You know, I learned that from Jason and Justin Brook and Ad Skills, and they didn't know. I'm like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Well, that was a big mistake, because then I end up owing to them, I think 3x of what we spent. And I just paid them because it was a pretty big account. And if my name got out there, it would be really bad. So I learned never take on anybody that doesn't know the numbers, and just be open and honest with them, you know. And I've learned to just tell people, look, this is a collaborative effort. I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the ideas. I have some, but if we work together and I share my ideas, you look at my idea, you can bring your ideas too, and just collaborate. You know, and just throw as many things as we can and say, hey, how about we try this with what you said? And then, you know, if you say, hey, I like what you said, so let's put that in the mix and let's come up with something and let's test it, you know? And so this is a collaborative effort. When you work with anybody in business, it's always collaborative. There's nobody that has all the answers.
Well, speaking with Jim about collaboration, Jim Moore and you are working on some pretty cool things right now with that for this year. Tell me some more about what you're doing so people can get some insights.
We're working on a new app that's called OptimizeX. It's going to be for attribution and tracking. And there's actually much more coming to it. But it originally started with when we saw the dip in data that Facebook was receiving because of what Apple did in last year. And so since all the data is not coming into the Pixel, and it could be Google, it could be YouTube, TikTok, all of that, we're realizing that because of third-party applications and privacy issues that people have been bringing up over the years, we have to figure out, well, what is the way that we can get all the data into our Facebook pixel, right? Because we run a lot of Facebook ads for our brands. And so even though we were seeing some success, it just wasn't reflecting on the ad account. And so Jim has been working closely with a company, with a group of guys out of Finstra. So they're a fintech company. They're basically banking security. So we partnered up with these guys, and they are just geniuses when it comes to AI and creating algorithms and security that could pass data from front end traffic all the way to the back end. Well, Jim has been running ads since 2004, maybe 2003, before it was even a thing. So back in those days of affiliate marketing, everything was first party. Well, as Pixel started coming out, it was put your Pixel on your website. Well, that considers third party. Anything on a website, on your Shopify store, WordPress, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, if you put a Pixel on the header, it's considered third party. Well, that's the issue with Apple. So what we discovered was we bought some servers and we started sending traffic to the URL, right? Instead of our landing pages collecting the data, if you send the traffic to the domain, that is your domain. So we learned you have to own the data, not Facebook. You own the data. You do whatever you want with that data. So we learned how to pass unique event IDs through first party application, basically CRM data. And so now that we started to get all this data into Facebook, around September or October, Facebook got a hold of Jim and I and was asking us, you guys have a lot of data on your Pixel. And we thought it was a good thing. We're like, yeah. So they were like excited. Well, they thought that we were doing something very mischievous. So we had to talk with the Facebook developers, and they were looking at all this data, and they're like, hey, you have 1-for-1 attribution. You have 1-for-1 data. How are you guys doing that? And so we actually showed them our first party, application or server, and they were just blown away. So they thought we were doing something black hat, something mischievous. And, they were just like, you guys are getting all of it, all the all the top of funnel events, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel events.
Dude, that's amazing because I know there's a number of places out there that are trying to do this attribution. And as I've watched them for the last 6 to 8 months, they're still not able to do a 1-for-1 track on the attribution. It's been a big problem for a lot of the media buyers. I've been watching this in the groups. And it's amazing. That's why I wanted to bring you on here, because I know you guys are releasing something that I think is going to be very industry changing, as well as helping a lot of business owners to ensure their numbers are profitable when they run their ads, and to not shut off certain campaigns or ad sets that actually are profitable. They just didn't realize it, because I think a lot of people fall into that. Where they shut it off for a couple of different reasons, as you, I'm sure, know. They can't track it properly, or they don't properly attribute the back end sales. They don't optimize. They don't know they're up sales. They can't make the money on the back.
They can't do it. So if let's say you have a campaign and you want to be at a 2x, but your campaign, whether it's a catalog campaign, it's open wide, or you're doing, interest-based testing, targeting, and your ROAS is at 1.2, but you know that it must be higher because your Shopify is showing that you made, 50 grand and you only spent 15K on Facebook. Like, something's off. So what we were able to do in the month of October, November, December was we were able to make over, I think, $1 million in sales over those 3 months. And we were just scaling so much because we were getting all the data. Every single purchase was being passed back through the pixel. Now, our team was working with Google Cloud Services, Google Tag Manager. It was, if you see the code, it's crazy because it's very unique code that they were working on. And so we shared a post, or Jim shared a post, and man, people were like, how are you doing that? And so we were going to release Optimize X in November, but with new technology and software, it's buggy. And so one of the chief of staff was like, no, how about we wait, is bring on some merchants with at least 100K in sales per month, and let's work with them. Well, it was kind of back and forth. Like, we kept seeing bugs, and then we're going to release it January 4th. That was the actual date. But then there were some other things that we were seeing with the optimized pixel that was off. And so I was on a call with Jim the other day. I was looking at the Optimize X pixel on the server, and man, it was just amazing. We're sending traffic to a fake site, and we're collecting all the data, like all the layers, every single thing. Every time someone goes to add to cart, you see the value, you see everything, the time on page. If they're going to initiate the checkout, which means they're going to the checkout process, you see that, you see the time on page. Once they add their name and their payment info, you see add payment info. It starts to begin to move. And so we're very close. We're very, very close, and we're excited. So we haven't said nothing in a while because it's like, so every time the dev team discovers something,
a lot of false starts.
We discover something, and trust, we have like huge businesses that are just like, I can't wait to get on it. And so we're like, we just can't wait to release it, and so it's fun. And so that brings me back to this point. All these years of going through trial and error and wondering, is this going to work out? Am I ever going to get into real estate investing? Am I ever going to, all of that. It's all my dream. It's like, how could I own apartment complexes? How could I get there? And so I've known Jim for 2 years. Get this, I've known Jim for about 2.5 years now. And he's always seen my post. And then just one day, he's like, I really like what you're posting. And I was like, thanks. And so we connected, and he's on his porch in Thailand. And man, you live in paradise. And, he was just sharing some things with me, and we would go back and forth. We're like marketing geeks, sharing this, sharing that. And how about we test this? And how about we test that? And then one day, he was working with a pretty big agency out of Australia. I'm not sure which one. And they tanked his account. And I said, man, give me a shot at your accounts. Just give me a shot. Just, you don't have to pay me. Just give me a shot. I don't care. Right. And then I was showing him what I was doing with this print on demand company. And he was just like, damn. All right. He was like, all right, I'm going to give you all my accounts. I was like, all right, cool. And the next day we started working with each other. And we talk like daily. So we become like marketing BFFs, you know? And so, but after that, it's been great. You know, his wife Ming's amazing. The whole team is amazing. He really understands that ecosystem that I talked about earlier, multi-channel. He has a call center called eCommerce. I tell you what, the call center in the month of November brought in over 100K in sales. Anybody who buys to mitigate the chargeback, it's all recorded. Did you buy this? Okay, just make sure that they actually bought it. And then they begin to upsell them. They begin to figure out, well, why did you buy this product? Was it for you? Was it for somebody else? Well, we have this complimentary product. Today is 20% off. And then boom. Or if someone abandons the checkout and they have their name and number, it's all in Shopify, their number's right there. That means they left it. They call them within 15 minutes and figure out why they were thinking of buying it and then why they didn't. And if they say,
could be price, could be product, could be understanding or whatever, and they can just quickly overcome those objections
that's
and
it.
close that sale.
That's it. And I tell every e-com business owner, you got to have somebody on your team to call these people. That is money left on the table.
And
and
if it's just you, just get on it.
Yeah. So again, it's all about customer experience. And then after that, they get on your list. And then, man, this is fire. So in the month of December, we made close to, I think it was $670,000 in sales.
Very good.
And so our Facebook ads were just on fire. I mean, man, we were doing some crazy stuff, just testing different things. We were on it. Me and Jim were like on Zooms all the time. And man, it just soared. And so, you know, it was really cool. People were like, how are you guys doing that? And we're like, this is how we're doing it.
Well, how do people get involved in OptimizeX or even in the availability of the call center? If they're in a Shopify store or a funnel or they're wanting to get involved in those things, how can they get involved? Where do they contact you and how do they learn more about it?
If you want to learn more about eCommerce, the call center, so e-com business must be making between 2 to 5 million a year because you have to have at least a minimum of 5 callers in the account, and it's expensive. I'm just gonna say it's expensive, but we can actually guarantee that after 90 days, you will get a 3 to 7x return if your AOV is over $100 and you have multi products in your store. Because if your AOV is over 100, you can scale that sucker really quick. And obviously with complementary products, upsell, downsell, you know, all of that. And so if you want to know more about eCommerce, I would say you could just, you could email me at alex@optimizex.io and we can schedule a call to see if your company's a fit. If you want to get on the OptimizeX software waiting list, I could send you or anybody could reach out to me through Facebook Messenger, and I could send them the list. And so that way they could get on that waiting list. So once it launches, then there's gonna be a big email that goes out and then you can get on it.
All right, folks, if you are in that direct-to-consumer mode, Shopify, and you want to make sure you know your numbers, you want to track correctly, and you want to take more money out of your front-end acquisitions, you want to talk to Alex, connect. It'll be in the show notes below here. If you want to look up that information, we'll put it in there. And of course, hit up Alex if you guys want to learn more about what he's doing and the successes he's having. I encourage you to do that. Alex, thanks for coming on, man. Taking some time with me today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
If you like this episode, please share it with people you think will enjoy it as well. Thank you for listening, and be sure to tune in next week for a brand new episode of High Voltage Business Builders.